Yes.
Now, you're going to be testifying with respect to Mr. Depp's challenges to or claims of damages, and you're also going to be testifying to Amber Heard's damages, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to start you with Mr. Depp.
She's smiling because that means she gets paid twice.
With respect to Mr. Depp's claimed damages, on what subject have you been asked to offer your opinion?
So I was asked to assess any alleged damages that the op-ed piece in the Washington Post that Ms. Heard wrote, whether that have impacted his career in any way, particularly did he lose any income or any economic opportunities because of the op-ed piece specifically.
All right. And have you been asked to limit that to the period of December 18, 2018, with the date of the op-ed?
Yeah, here we go.
November 2, 2020.
Here we go. Let's see it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what materials did you review in making your analysis?
There were a lot of documents. I reviewed the pleadings of the case, the complaints, the discovery items, the responses to what they call interrogatories, which are the questions that the lawyers ask both sides. I reviewed Mr. Depp's deposition testimony, which there were volumes of that, as well as Ms. Heard's. I also reviewed the deposition testimony of the experts that were proffered that had to do with the entertainment industry, the agents and the management teams of both sides. Ron Schnell, the data expert. I also reviewed emails and texts between the parties, between their families, between their management teams, the audio recordings, the visual recordings that have been presented in this case and the previous cases that have been involved in the last couple of years. I also did my own independent research from general publicity and press and investigative articles, as well as those that are specific to the entertainment industry, and utilized some entertainment industry specific sources to get some information that was helpful to my case, to the case.
Got it.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold. Please describe for the jury your observations with respect to Mr. Depp's career trajectory.
Okay, let's see it.
Well, Mr. Depp has had an extraordinary career over many years, so it's a long one to look at. Obviously, he was a rising star in the late 80s and in the 90s, starting with 21 Jump Street.
Our case,
and
yeah.
You've heard, all the films that I'm sure he's been in. He really started to break through when he worked with Tim Burton, the director, and of course his character Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean was, world renowned.
True.
Probably his biggest role, and he was a well-liked both critically and within the industry and within the public as a movie star.
True.
And at the same time, his behavior and both on and off the set, in his personal life and in his professional life, start to interfere with what we would say, what everybody saw was his great talent. And it started, there's some stories of issues that started back in the 80s and the 90s, but I would say really in the mid-2000s, between 2006 and 10, is when the behavior started affecting his work to a certain extent in terms of lateness on set. And then as Ms. Jacobs, his talent agent, discussed with you in her deposition, it really started to affect her ability to get roles and the industry's willingness to work with him, given the issues that he was having with both behavior, tardiness, drinking, and the drug abuse, and other issues in his personal life. So it got
other
more
issues
for her to find him work, and I think it got harder for production companies and studios to hire him due to the challenges that would put on a production.
How are you going to tack that on at the end without saying what it is?
Begin based on your review of all the record evidence.
Well, again, according to Ms. Jacobs, his agent, she mentioned that it started getting more challenging for her around 2010. The lateness on set was being made, she was being made aware of that more and more often from production executives and the producers that she was working with on the Pirates movie. And not only Pirates, it continued on the other films, including Mordecai and Murder on the Orient Express. And in around 2014, when he had the appearance, it was presumed that he was under the effects of alcohol at the Hollywood Film Awards in 2014.
Objection, Your Honor. Non-responsive.
Is that
She's answering the career downturn.
like? Are we gonna?
Please continue.
Are we gonna confirm that Johnny Depp does drugs again?
In 2014, when Mr. Depp appeared in the Hollywood Film Awards, Ms. Jacobs received many phone calls from both producers, casting directors, and production executives asking her what is going on with your client, why, what's going on with his behavior, can we get him under control? And then I think it really started to shift around the Pirates 5 movie in Australia with, again, the lateness and the issues with the finger that stopped production and things of that nature, and then it got harder and harder.
Now, based on your analysis, what has caused Mr. Depp's career downturn?
Objection. No foundation.
Overruled. Can you please repeat the question?
Based on your analysis, what has caused Mr. Depp's career downturn?
I wonder.
And I realize you've said a number of those, so just is there
Yeah, I
anything
wonder.
else?
I wonder what it could possibly be.
We've talked about the erratic behavior, the tardiness, the drugs and
Yeah,
alcohol
yeah.
abuse, and the lawsuits have had a really big impact, not just
Really?
this lawsuit, but previous lawsuits that Mr. Depp has been involved with, because there's a lot of publicity around anything
Involved
that he does.
with.
And every time he has
Involved
filed a
with.
lawsuit, it has brought to light various issues with respect to whatever that lawsuit was about, whether it was about, erratic behavior or domestic abuse or drugs and alcohol and even spending habits. So every time a lawsuit has been filed, the press and the publicity has just been charged up and brought everything back to light. And it's been an unfortunate problem for on that level for the industry to continue to work with him, even though all this is out in the public.
For the films that were shortly
So like an article
before
written
Pirates 5,
would do the same
how
thing?
successful were they? We're talking Mordecai, Alice Through the Looking Glass. I think you testified to some of those. The Lone Ranger, Tonto.
Right.
Objection. Compound.
Overruled. Of course, Mr. Depp has had some obviously extremely successful films, but also in the 4 or 5 years prior and, through Pirates, there were films that didn't do well at all and were considered what the industry calls a bomb, which could have been
I've heard of those.
Alice Through the Looking Glass, The Transcendence, the Lone Ranger, and Mordecai were films that just didn't perform, although they were valued in their financing based on Mr. Depp's star quality and acting ability. Unfortunately, they just didn't perform. So as many hits as he's also had a lot of recent, what they call failures in the business.
What they call.
And what, if anything, did Mr. Depp do with respect to showing up for a press conference in Japan for Mordecai?
Ms. Jacobs mentioned in her deposition testimony that Mr. Depp didn't show up for the press conference in Mordecai, which he was not only an actor for, he was also a producer. And he didn't show up. Apparently, he was sleeping, so he wasn't able to make it.
Okay. Now, what, if any, impact did the Brooks litigation have on Mr. Depp's career?
Is the jury familiar with this already, or?
Well, I think you can.
Okay. So the Brooks litigation was, there was a litigation around Mr. Depp had punched someone on one of the, I think it was a location manager on the set of a film called City of Lies. I don't know exactly what happened to that litigation. However, of course, again, it was written a lot about in the press, and unfortunately it came to the forefront that he had, violent behavior yet again.
So
yet again, wait,
2018,
yet again.
And I'm going to say before the op-ed on December 18, 2018, was there any negative articles, negative press about Mr. Depp?
How are you going to just put that in there?
For quite a while. When you're a celebrity such as Mr. Depp, you're in the limelight, and
my
everybody wants to look at everything that happens. So after every movie or after every incident, there was usually press. But the ones that were more significant were the ones in the Hollywood, a couple of them in the Hollywood Reporter and one in the Rolling Stones. So in 2017, There was an article in the Hollywood Reporter where the journalist discussed, I think the article was called Pirates of the Caribbean, The Diminishing Returns of Johnny Depp. And that Pirates, the last one was 5, right? And that one didn't perform nearly as well as the other previous Pirates of the Caribbean films. And there was some discussion that the character...
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
I think you could explain generally.
Sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When was that Hollywood Reporter article on diminishing returns of Johnny Depp?
That was in the spring of 2017.
Okay.
So it seems like these articles have an
and
impact.
I just want to make sure we understand. How well did Pirates 5 do compared to 1 through 4?
It performed less well by over $200 million.
Okay.
That's not as good.
What, if any, other negative press was there in this time frame? We'll take 2017, 2018, before the op-ed.
So in 2018, there was the Rolling Stones article that was an in-depth expose on Mr. Depp's life. Again, his erratic behavior, the money he was spending on wine.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I think she can give generally, Your Honor, the negative.
Sustain. Nope.
Yeah,
what sure.
If any knowledge do you have of
Pirates 5 is SJW political ship? That's why it flopped? Maybe.
Saw
I didn't
the
see
Rolling
it.
Stone article.
There were emails between the publicity department and the co-chairs and some of the senior executive Disney that they would forward the articles as they came out, both the Hollywood Reporter article and the Rolling Stones article, and they would make commentary. And Alan Horn, who is the
but they didn't do that with the
co-chairs
op-ed.
of Disney, used the word sad. And I think one of the other executives used depressing, that their film star was now being shown in this light to the public in a Rolling Stones magazine.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
It's like, didn't the other person say they didn't know?
Was there any
and
more
that was the implication?
articles about the Pirates of the Caribbean prior to the op-ed in December of 2018?
There was an article in October 28th, the Hollywood Reporter, October 28th, 2018, where the journalist had spoken to 2 writers of the film, and they were talking
Objection,
about rebooting
hearsay.
the franchise.
She's entitled to rely on hearsay, and she's just giving the general. She's not.
Approach.
Yeah, here we go. Let's go. Think you could stop the warrior? That's not going to happen. Holy shit. Yeah, objection. I'm telling you, this guy is just not going to let it happen. And I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean, like, you can only make so many movies until people kind of get tired of the movies. You know what I mean? It's like, how many Fast and the Furious movies did they have? And like other ones, right? It's like like Pirates of the Caribbean was played out at that point. And like also Pirates of the Caribbean, well, like, I don't remember exactly like what this was, but like a lot of that is based in real life. Like Blackbeard Edward Teague was a real person, for example. But like that ended. Like that was in like a very small period of time, and then it ended. So like they ended it. It's the same with Black Sails, right? Edward Teach. Was it Teague or Teach? I think actually you're right. It might have been Teach. Yeah, I don't remember. But either way, it was that's Blackbeard's real name. He used to actually, I think he was an admiral or some sort of a captain in the British or the Royal Navy or something like that. Teach. Yeah, I don't remember which one. But like, either way, like, shit runs its course, man.
So without saying what the article said, say what it's about.
Okay. So in October 28th, the article was about whether the Pirates of the Caribbean
Objection,
franchise
hearsay.
would be rebooted without.
Overruled.
Please continue.
In the article in October 2018 was about whether or not the Pirates franchise was going to be what they call redefined without Johnny Depp, and that was regarding 2 writers that were on the project.
Okay.
Okay.
And there was one other one I'd like to
go ahead, please.
So there was another article, there was an expose on the president and production. It was also in the Hollywood Reporter. And this is the one that Mr. Marks, Mr. Depp's expert, pointed to regarding the op-ed's impact on Mr. Depp's career.
Yeah.
And the online article was, as Mr. Marks pointed out, published on December 20th of 2018. But the same article was in print on the morning of December 18th, 2018, which is the same morning of the op-ed. So that Hollywood Reporter article that Mr. Marks used to say...
Objection, no foundation.
Overruled.
Please continue.
He's
He's
Mr. Marks
trying.
used that article to show that Disney wanted to let go of Mr. Depp because of the op-ed, but it was actually printed in the Reporter the same morning that the Washington Post article was printed. So there's no way that the Washington Post article had any impact on what the Hollywood Reporter journalist wrote. So they were on the same
I
morning.
thought
They were released simultaneously, interestingly enough.
Is that the...
And the one that was 2 days later was the same article, just online?
Same article, it was just online, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Now, what, if anything, was there about press in 2018 relating to the Sun and Dan Wooten and any litigation that
Right,
Mr. Depp
so-
was bringing?
So a lot of press was about the UK trial in the lawsuit that Mr. Depp brought against the Sun.
Yeah,
in the UK
for calling him
about
a
the
wife beater.
Title that they used. So there was a ton of press around that.
He
both at
should have
the time
won.
that it was filed and throughout as documents were being shared with the public, and then of course during the trial itself.
Okay. And what is your understanding of when the article, the wife beater article, first appeared?
Uh-huh.
I believe it was in July of 2018, about 6 months before the op-ed piece.
And what is your understanding of when Mr. Depp filed suit against the Sun and Mr. Wooten?
Again in 2018, I believe.
Okay. June, would
Uh-huh.
it be?
Yeah.
Would that,
Sounds
would
like a
it
real smear
refresh-
campaign.
Would it refresh your
It was in the spring or summer. It was fairly shortly after the article, so it was long before the op-ed piece was out.
Okay. And what, if any, impact did Mr. Depp's litigation in the Sun case have on his career?
That was a really tough one on Mr. Depp's career because everything, every allegation of abuse and every text, every email, all the audio, all the visual stuff was brought to light and made public. And so not only did the public get to see it, but the industry was watching closely. And it's hard for studios, especially a studio like Disney, who's family-oriented, be connected to a star that has texts about burnt corpses and violent behavior in video.
Oh.
So it was a big conflict.
The
for a lot of
lawsuit was
people
the
in
problem.
industry to how to navigate that if they're going to work
Disney
with
had
Star.
a problem with that, but not him being
And
called
what,
a
if
wife
any,
beater?
impacted Mr. Depp's other litigation?
fucking
against
kidding me?
Mandel and Bloom have during that time
So
period?
defending himself is that...
As I was trying to say earlier,
Don't defend
every time
yourself.
Mr. Depp brings a lawsuit,
Get
because
the
he's
fuck
such a
outta here.
well-known public figure, the spotlight goes on him. So every time a lawsuit was filed, whether it was to his business, against his business manager, against his former lawyer, even when he fired his talent agent, it becomes news. And then everybody talks about what could have preceded that. Why would that lawsuit have happened? And then they look at the details. So again, the erratic behavior and the financial issues and the drinking and drug abuse was all part and parcel of every one of those. And it was brought to light yet again each time.
What is your understanding of Mr. Depp's claims regarding Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and how that impacted?
Uh-huh.
Well, Mr. Depp is claiming that he's lost money on Pirate 6, but Pirate 6 hasn't even been made yet, nor is there even
Okay.
a script that has been what we call greenlit, moved towards production. So I don't know how you lose something that hasn't happened. So I think that's what you're looking for me to.
And in fact, since Mr. Depp's damages are limited to November
This is such bullshit.
2020 and nothing since, and that hasn't happened, is there any way he could claim damages for Pirate 6?
Well,
Objection leading.
Obviously not.
Overruled.
Again, you can't claim damages for something that hasn't even happened.
Yeah, of
whether
course.
he was in it or not in it, or was going to be in it, or might have been in it, whether it was 2018 or now.
Uh-huh.
There just is no Pirate 6. Not only did he not have a contract even back in the day, 2018 or after that, no contract had been signed for a Pirate 6. It doesn't exist as we...
Objection,
as we
legal
today.
conclusion.
That's just like, oh my God.
Sustained. In the last part.
How do you know he doesn't have a legal contract?
Well, Ms. Jacobs said he didn't have a legal contract, and also his agents at CAA said he had not yet negotiated a contract for Pirate 6. And again, there is no script, so they haven't greenlit it, as we say. They don't have it cast or with the director yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Based on your analysis, what, if any, impact did Ms. Heard's op-ed have on whether Mr. Depp could claim a loss for Pirate 6?
Zero.
Okay. And why do you say that?
Again, well, many things.
Okay.
The movie doesn't exist yet, so that's one. But even as important is that Disney, in their file for this trial, did not have the op-ed piece as part of all of the information they had read and looked about and discussed. The conversations of Mr. Depp not being in whatever new version of Pirates, the franchise that goes forward, those were in discussions long before the op-ed piece even came out. And there are other factors that Disney was considering: the lateness on set, the cost overruns that costs, which can go from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars when you have crews sitting around for 2 to 4 hours, 8 hours, or even several weeks to a month when the finger incident happened. So on top of that, Mr. Depp is an expensive actor. He can earn between $20 and $25 million
That's so
per
fucked
movie
up.
plus back end. So it's very expensive. So when you put that all together, the rising cost of Mr. Depp's talent, the challenges that they had to keep it on budget because of his lateness and his tardiness, and all the other allegations that would affect a brand such as Disney.
I'm
right?
mauled.
Someone talks about a
I
burnt
am
corpse
mauled.
does not necessarily coincide with the brand of Disney. So there were many problems. And interestingly enough, there was a lot of conversation internally in the industry.
Objection, hearsay.
She's entitled to rely on hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
This is just like-
Hearsay.
All right. Please continue without saying what the discussion in the industry
Oh
was.
my God, man. I just.
The Jack Sparrow character had been exhausted in terms of where it could go creatively. And I think the studio is looking for a way for it to renew the franchise, but not necessarily base it entirely on the Jack Sparrow character, which is where it had ended up the last couple of years.
Okay. And
Evidenced by the lesser box office of Pirates 5 compared to the earlier ones.
right. And was there any article that came out on November 5, 2020?
It's
3
true,
days
but I don't
after
believe it.
The damages are cut off relating to Pirates of the Caribbean and Mr. Depp's chances of being Jack Sparrow.
I think they reiterated the fact that he was probably not going to be in the movie.
Okay. Now, what impact has the op-ed had on Mr. Depp's career?
Very little. Hardly anybody even knew the op-ed existed before he filed suit.
Okay.
If anybody that I know, but certainly not Disney.
Okay. And
Then why did everybody start
what
tweeting
impact
justice
has
for
the
Johnny
op-ed
Depp?
had on Mr. Depp's Q scores?
Then why did everybody start tweeting that?
According to what I read of Mr. Alan Jacobs,
On the same day.
an expert in statistical analysis, and from my own research on websites that are available to us, Mr. Depp's Q score, or if you're familiar with IMDb, which is Internet Movie Database, which is available to public and to the professional side.
I actually never knew what
his
that
Q score
stood
did
for.
not change dramatically. It was kind of in the middle of exactly the high and low of his Q scores overall. It was in the middle. It was at like 113, which is where it was a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after. So the op-ed didn't have any effect on his Q score, and that was reiterated by Mr. Jacobs in his deposition testimony.
That's such
And
a
then you
stupid
testified
thing to
in
say.
response to an earlier question I had that people, or that nobody seemed to notice the op-ed until Mr. Depp filed suit. Now, that was on March 1, 2019. Do you recall?
Yes, that's when the
Okay.
lawsuit
That's so
was filed.
stupid.
And why do you
That's such a
say
stupid
that
thing
they
to
didn't
say.
notice until then?
Because the op-ed piece, for most people in the industry,
it's
kind
so
of came
stupid.
and went without much fanfare or much conversation. It was much more about the. I don't think very many people even know it was written until the allegations were made by Mr. Depp in the lawsuit. It kind of came in and out of the radar very quickly, if anybody even saw it at all.
They had the graph that
Between
showed
December 18, 2018
The fucking
and November
tweets.
2020, November 2, 2020,
Like-
our window here, has Mr. Depp continued to star in films?
So, Mr. Depp, so the article came, the op-ed piece came out December 18 and 20 of 2018. In January and February of 2019, he shot a film called Minamata, which was an independent film that it was what we call a passion project. He loved the script and wanted to do it. So he was able to film that after the op-ed piece.
Sure.
And then the Dior campaign, Sauvage, I don't know the exact dates of filming, but I know that it did air throughout 2019. And it's my understanding that he still may have that contract with Dior, so he continued that product endorsement. And then in in the spring and the fall, I believe it was, Mr. Depp was able to do press for the film Waiting for the Barbarians. He went to the Deauville Film Festival. He went to the Venice Film Festival. He was well received at the press conferences. You know, life was at the same level for him in terms of his popularity over in Europe. They were still, he was still working on press for the films. And then, of course, he was scheduled to film Fantastic Beasts in early November of 2020.
And that's no longer the case, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Can we approach?
Okay.
Okay, let's think about this. The IMDb rating is his public perception. Is that right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's like his in general public perception and just kind of like how people look at him, right? Yes, no, what is it? What is the IMDb rating? Yes, no.
And that's no longer the case, correct, on Fantastic Beasts? I don't want you to say anything more than that.
It's per
That's no
film.
longer
It's no longer the case, correct.
He's no
Shouldn't
longer
be, but
in
it
that
could be.
film, correct?
He was
It's a
paid
gauge
for
of
it, but he
hypeness.
does not star in the
Okay.
film.
Okay, thank you. Now, what, if any, effect did the
Here we
op-ed
go.
have on Mr. Depp's fan following?
I don't know I don't think it had any effect on his fan following. Again, his
That's true.
scores didn't shift, and he clearly has a strong fan base.
So then it clearly,
In your
all right.
opinion, what or who
There-
has
there we
caused the
go.
damage, if there is any, to Mr. Depp on his career and reputation between December 18,
Yeah, she just said it.
2018 and November 2,
Okay,
2020?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Mr. Depp.
And why do you say that?
Well, again, filing the lawsuits, bringing to light the issues, is Mr. Depp doing that on his own accord? And
What?
any statements that were made by his team, Mr. Waldman or anyone else, is associated with Mr. Depp, and those statements that came out, the defamatory statements, which we'll talk about in a minute, were also
Objection.
put out by Mr. Depp's team. So in actuality, he's causing his own demise by bringing these lawsuits forward and continuing to kind of ignite the fire.
It's his
of
fault for defending himself.
negative publicity around
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah, it's his fault for
Are
defending
all of your
himself. He
opinions
shouldn't
to
do
within a
that.
reasonable degree of probability or certainty with respect to Mr. Depp's damages?
What a stupid.
Okay, thank you.